Hey guys, my name is Rachel and welcome back to my channel. So the case that we are going to be going over today is quite possibly one of the strangest disappearances that I've ever looked into. It seemed as if he was literally just plucked off the earth with absolutely no sign, with no evidence tracing anywhere. It's such a strange case that has absolutely no answers. Now, I feel like a lot of you are going to have an opinion about this. I feel like I kind of know what people are going to say, and I'm looking forward to seeing what everyone thinks about this case, but it's a strange one and it's really gonna make you think. So, with that being said, let's just get right into today's video. Today, we are going to be talking about the unsolved disappearance of Angel Garcia. Angel Garcia was born March 5th, 1992, and he lived with his mother, Laura, in Hartford, Connecticut at the time of his disappearance. He had one sister named Rose, and when he was 10 years old, Angel's parents actually got divorced, so him and his mother actually grew extremely close. The family in general was very close and made sure to sit around the table and eat dinner every single night. Angel met his girlfriend, Omira, on Facebook about a year before his disappearance, and their relationship got serious very quickly. Omira wasn't in the best place in her life when the two met, so her and her 2-year-old son, Johnston, actually moved in with Angel and his mother and quickly became a part of the family. Angel was already ready to accept Omira and her son into the family and take on a fatherly role at only 19 years old. But taking on this sort of fatherly role wasn't new to him because his older sister Rose actually had a baby of her own who Angel absolutely adored. He spent every moment that he could with this precious baby, and she was absolutely attached to him. Family was the most important thing to them, and nothing else mattered as long as the family was together. Now, Angel had kind of always struggled with school because he was diagnosed with ADHD. Angel's mother said that she would wake him up for school, watch him get ready before leaving for work, but then find out that he didn't actually go to school. It was always a struggle for him, and medication didn't really work either because it just made him feel like a zombie and he just didn't like taking it. He did fall a few years behind in high school, but he was determined to finish it out. Angel loved to cook and always made his family dinners. Thursday, October 20th was no different. His mother returned home from work and he had a plate of dinner waiting for her, but she was just so exhausted from a full day of work that she just headed straight to bed at around 10 p.m. that night. The next morning, she got up and checked on Angel, who was still laying in bed. She woke him up for school that morning, but he had other plans. He had just recently got this red Honda dirt bike. Now, this was a very nice bike, and his mother had no idea where he got it from or where he would have gotten the money to buy it. But he basically told his mom that his dad gave him the money and bought it for him, and even though she wasn't 100% convinced of the story, she kind of just left it alone. But either way, this dirt bike was Angel's prized possession. He treated it like his baby. He was riding it around every single day, he washed it every day, and went with his friends down park trails and streets riding this dirt bike. So back to this Friday, instead of going to school, Angel actually decided to ride with his friend Joelle at his uncle's house at around 10:30 a.m. Joelle's uncle had this big field in the back of his house that was absolutely perfect for dirt bike riding. They rode around for a good couple of hours before Joelle's ATV suddenly ran out of gas. So the two pushed the ATV back to Joelle's uncle's house and talked about their plans for the rest of the day. Angel said that he wanted to go off and ride around a little bit more, but Joelle said that he had other plans and wasn't able to go with. So he stayed back watching Angel ride off on his dirt bike heading east. That night at around 9:30 p.m., Laura was tired after another long day of work and just went home and went straight to bed because she had work once again early that next day. However, in the middle of the night, Laura actually woke up to a loud yelling in the middle of the street of someone saying, "Go ahead, break it." But to her, It sounded exactly like Angel's voice. Laura ran out of her bedroom immediately and saw that Omaya had run out as well. So both of these women were woken up by the sounds of this person yelling. So they ran out onto the front porch as fast as they could to see what was going on. But by the time they got out there, no one was there. There wasn't a car or a sign of a person or anything being there. This is when Laura asked Omira where Angel was, and she said she didn't know, that he never came back that night, and that she had been trying to get a hold of him all day, but he wasn't returning her phone calls. The last time that Omira had spoken to Angel was around 11 a.m. that day, when he told her that he was riding around his dirt bike at a friend's house, that he didn't have too much service, so he said that he'd call her back later, but he never got back to her and never answered her phone calls that day. Initially, when she couldn't get a hold of Angel, Omira wasn't that concerned because, maybe his phone died or he didn't have service. But it later came out that according to cell phone records, the phone call between the two at 11 a.m. was the very last time that he had spoken to anyone on the phone. The rest of that night, Laura stayed up all night just trying to call whoever she could get a hold of to see if anyone had seen Angel. But no one had, so at this point, no one had absolutely any idea of where he possibly could have gone. Angel was such a mama's boy and would always come home to sleep, and if he wasn't going to come home to sleep, he would always let her know where he was and what he was doing. He always answered phone calls and texts from his family and would never go an entire day of just ignoring everyone in his family. By that Saturday at 6 p.m., Laura reported Angel as missing. She did wait the full day because she, like so many others, thought that you had to wait 24 hours before reporting Angel missing, and just so you know, you don't have to wait the 24 hours. That is a common misconception, and it's a very unfortunate one because the first 24 hours are the most important. Now, after reporting him missing, an officer showed up to the house to take down the report. Laura told police what she knew, and Omira told police that Angel was at Joelle's uncle's house riding his dirt bike. When police spoke to Joelle, he had said the same thing that we had mentioned earlier about Angel wanting to go and keep riding his dirt bike while Joelle stayed back. He said that Angel had planned on going riding in East Hartford, Connecticut. He told investigators that he didn't want to go because he had errands, but he also said that to get to East Hartford, you'd have to ride across the Connecticut River, which Joelle was too scared to do. But Angel was a little bit more adventurous and had no problem going over the river, according to Joelle. Now, the only two ways that you can get across the river is either by taking a highway bridge with much faster moving traffic, which could have been pretty dangerous, or he could have gone over a train trestle, which is much more common for dirt bike riders to use. However, at the time that Angel went missing, the river was very flooded, almost 15 to 20 feet higher than it normally is, which may have made it a lot more difficult to get over the train trestle. Investigators initially wondered if maybe Angel was riding across the bridge and then lost control of his bike and then fell into the river. But really, they had absolutely no idea if he even got to East Hartford or if he ever crossed that bridge. There really aren't any surveillance cameras along the route of how he would get to East Hartford, and nothing ever washed up that could indicate that he was ever in the river. But once you actually cross the bridge and get more into town, there are a ton more of surveillance cameras. They examined all the surveillance cameras that they could to see if they could catch him passing through East Hartford to get to East Hartford Trail, but they didn't find any sign of him in any of these videos. This is when investigators started to worry because you can get pretty far in a pretty short amount of time on a dirt bike, so their search radius was huge and expanded to pretty much all of the trails in Hartford. They thought that maybe he could be hurt stored somewhere, just sitting there waiting to be found. So they started to use his cell phone pings to try and pin down exactly where he was when he went missing. At around 3 p.m. that day, his cell phone pinged off of a tower near some train tracks in West Hartford, which was about 2 hours after he told Joelle that he was going to be in East Hartford. So they searched both areas. They walked around the areas to see if they could find any tire tracks. They shouted his name, hoping that if he was out there hurt, that he could respond and that someone would find him. But in both of these areas, they found no sign of him anywhere. The next place that they searched was the area where he was last known to have been riding with Joelle. They conducted a massive search following his tracks on ATV around the area, searching on foot. They used sonar equipment to see if there was any sign of him falling into the water anywhere, but they found absolutely nothing anywhere. No signs of a bike or pieces of clothing, no wallet, no ID, nothing. There was absolutely no sign that he had been in anywhere in the area ever. Then, 3 days after the disappearance, one of Angel's friends, Josh, came forward with a tip. Josh said that he was with Angel and a couple of other friends riding their dirt bikes on Thursday, the night before he went missing, by Trinity College. But he said that as they were riding, a tan Jeep Cherokee had passed them, but then did an abrupt U-turn and started chasing them. As he was being chased, Angel turned into a field where the Jeep couldn't chase him, so the Jeep caught up with Josh and asked him where Angel went. So this turned the investigation into a whole new direction than before. Of course, after this tip, they went around to ask the other friends what had happened. This is when they found out that another one of Angel's friends, Lewis, had some information that he was afraid to tell police. Lewis admitted that the red dirt bike that Angel had was actually stolen and that he, Joelle, and Angel were the ones who stole it. About a month earlier, Angel had found this red dirt bike for sale on Craigslist and went over to the seller's house to ask for a test ride. Once he hopped on, he drove off, and Joelle and Lewis were waiting in their truck around the corner, so they loaded the bike onto the truck and drove off. Of course, when Laura found this out, she was shocked, upset, and disappointed that Angel had stolen this bike. She had raised him better than that. He was the only one in his circle of friends who didn't have a dirt bike, and he wanted to join them and go on their rides and whatever, but that was no excuse for him to go and steal another dirt bike. So police went online and found out that about a month earlier, someone had reported a bike with a similar description as stolen. Investigators tracked down the men who made this report to a 14-year-old boy and his stepdad. The detective told them that this was a missing persons investigation. He showed them the picture of Angel, and they immediately identified Angel as the one who rode away on the bike. Their story of how the bike was stolen pretty much matches up exactly the way Lewis told them. But other than this, investigators didn't see anything else that could have connected them to the disappearance. They didn't drive a Jeep Cherokee, and Lewis described the man who was driving the Jeep Cherokee as having blonde hair and blue eyes, and neither the stepdad or the 14-year-old had blonde hair or blue eyes, so they couldn't connect these men to what happened the night before the disappearance. This left investigators wondering about Joelle. He was the last person who saw Angel alive, so investigators took him for questioning, and his account of that day stayed pretty much the same. He told them again how he and Angel were riding around their dirt bikes that Friday, and how he didn't want to go with Angel to East Hartford. So they had Joelle show them a map of exactly where his uncle's house was and where they were riding, but when they moved the map and went on to the railroad tracks that were by the house, the same place that Angel's cell phone last pinged, Joelle seemed to get a little bit uneasy and nervous. When Joelle was talking about the area around the railroad tracks, his whole demeanor changed, and he said that Angel went to go ride around that area, but he was adamant that he did not go with. So this made investigators a little bit suspicious. Plus, Angel's family wasn't buying the story that Angel would just go off riding by himself, especially by the river. Laura said that Angel's father had specifically tried to ingrain in Angel's head never to go off riding by himself and to never ride by that river. Plus, the whole reason he got his bike in the first place was to go riding off with his friends, so why would he suddenly just decide to go riding by himself? It seemed like this river was pretty well known to be pretty dangerous, so it's something that they thought that Angel would try to avoid. So police brought Joelle out so that he could show them exactly where Angel was riding on the railroad tracks. They thought that maybe this added pressure of him physically being at the railroad tracks and having to pinpoint exactly where he saw Angel would add the pressure just enough to make Joelle admit to something that he may have been hiding. But when he was brought out to the railroad tracks, he really didn't do anything that made investigators question his behavior. He was being cooperative and did pretty much everything that they asked him to do. He didn't seem to be acting out of the normal, didn't seem to be nervous or anything like that. So at this point, they really didn't think that he had anything to do with it. This is when their next tip came in. Police actually discovered that a tan Jeep Cherokee was involved in a hit and run. They also found out that this specific Jeep had been stolen the same day that the chase had happened. It made sense that the person who had stolen the vehicle could be the same person who chased down Angel and his friends. So they impounded this Jeep and examined it. They checked for fingerprints, checked for DNA or any personal belongings. They actually did find a fingerprint in the car who they believed belonged to whoever stole this car, and so they ran it through the system, but pinning down this fingerprint would take a few weeks. So in the meantime, police followed other leads in the case. One tip actually came in of a witness who said that they actually saw Angel riding his dirt bike at around 5 p.m. that Friday, 4 hours after he was known to be with Joelle with another friend named Anthony. This now changed the entire timeline and changed who the person was who Angel was known to have last been seen with. Detectives went to go speak with Anthony, who did say that he was riding with Angel, but that it was on Thursday, not Friday. He said that on Friday around 5 p.m. he was out with his girlfriend, then went home early that night. But when police talked to the girlfriend, she did say that they were together that night, but she said that they were out pretty late. So this contradicts what Anthony had said about coming home early that day, so their stories didn't match up. But when police asked Anthony about his discrepancy, he said that he did actually lie about the timeline, but the only reason he lied about it was because he had broken his curfew. Anthony had a court-ordered 10 p.m. curfew because of past juvenile offenses, and he said that he was scared that if he told the truth about staying out late, that he would get in more trouble. So investigators double-checked this, and I'm not sure exactly what they did to find this out, but it really did seem that he was just afraid of getting in trouble by admitting that he was out later than he should have been, and nothing was pointing at him as being responsible for Angel's disappearance. So after this, the case pretty much came to a standstill. Months passed and there was absolutely no answers in Angel's case. Eventually, by December, there was a hit on the fingerprint, but once again, this just led the case nowhere. The fingerprint did belong to a man with a past criminal history, but this was a Hispanic man with dark skin, dark hair, and brown eyes. This did not match with Joelle's description of a man with light skin, light hair, and blue eyes. So it seemed that neither this car or this man had absolutely anything to do with Angel's disappearance. Then, 3 months later, on January 9th, 2012, a convenience store clerk in New Britain said that she had seen Angel in their store, which was only about 15 miles away from his home. She said that she knew it was him because she recognized him from a flyer and that this man had a fresh-looking neck tattoo that said Angel. This didn't make sense to investigators though, because they thought that there was no way that he would just run away and then not even hide because he was only 15 miles away from his home, just openly walking into this convenience store. But the store had surveillance video, and when they saw this man on video, it really did look a lot like Angel. Even Laura said that it really did look like her son, so at this point, They just wanted to find out if it truly was him. So then a week later, the same store clerk actually called in again, saying that she saw the same man come into the store and then get into a car. So after seeing him get into this car, she watched and got a partial license plate number. Now, this partial plate could not be tracked, so they actually just decided to start surveilling around the store. And while doing so, they actually saw this man just walking down the street. They pulled up and started talking to him and quickly realized that, of course, this was not Angel. But he literally looked so much like Angel that when they initially drove past him and saw him, that they thought that it was really him until they realized that the neck tattoo he had actually said Ashley, not Angel. So after this, there really wasn't any more movement in the case. They received more tips, followed more leads, but nothing else credible came in. And here we are 8 years later, and we still have absolutely no answers. So that is pretty much all of the information that I have. So now I'm going to get into the theories on this case. There are a lot of different speculations, and there are some really crazy and out there theories that I've seen online, but I'm just going to get into the ones that I think are the most likely. So the biggest theory that is believed by police is that he could have just fallen into the East Hartford River. We know that according to Joelle, this was the last place that Angel himself said that he was going to be. We know that they didn't find any trace of him whatsoever. They didn't find his bike, his wallet, a speck of clothing, or any sign of him anywhere. They did search the river initially, but investigators say that this river is very deep, it's very murky, and the current is very fast. They said that they just don't have the technology right now to go in and search this river with how dark and murky it is. They said that there's no way that they could send divers down there because even if they did go in, they wouldn't even be able to see their own hand in front of their face. So if he is in this river, they say that there's no real way to search for him. So this theory does make sense for why they haven't found anything whatsoever if all of his personal belongings went into that river with him. The next theory is that foul play was involved, and of course in this theory there are multiple other theories. Now I have seen some people say that they think that Joelle pushed him into this river or that something happened at the train tracks that he knows about, but I don't think this is true. I think that if something did happen that Joelle knew about, that it would have been an accident if anything, and that he would have said something by now. I do think that if something happened out of, Joelle's ill intent, that police would have been able to figure out something through body language or, through other tactics to see that he truly was hiding something. There's also no real reason for Joelle to have done anything to Angel. It just doesn't make sense that this friend would suddenly decide to push off his friend off of a bridge for no reason and then just be able to hide it seamlessly for 8 years. I do not think this theory is very likely at all. The next theory is that whoever was driving this Jeep Cherokee had something to do with it. Now, I was pretty set on the theory of him falling into the river at first because there's so many things that could point to it. Again, the river was so high, he could have easily lost control of the bike and slipped in and was just never seen again, and nothing of him was ever found again. However, when you think about how this chase happened and when the chase happened, that theory almost completely goes out the window for me. When looking at these cases, we know that coincidences aren't just that. There's a reason for everything that happens, and it can't be a coincidence that the day before he goes missing, some random unidentified man pulls up, starts chasing Angel, and then asks his friends where he went after Angel stole this dirt bike. I almost wonder if investigators put too much emphasis into the description of the driver because it was nighttime, and it's obviously very possible that Josh was just misremembering what this man looked like. I think it is a little bit dismissive that just because this stepdad didn't look exactly like the description that he's just completely ruled out. I don't know if I think that he's the one necessarily responsible, but I don't know. I just wish that they could have figured out who exactly was driving this Jeep, who it really belonged to, because that could give us so many answers. I also think back to both Laura and O'Mara waking up to someone who they both thought sounded like Angel saying, "Go ahead, break it." That's just yet another instance that we can't just brush off as a coincidence. I think that it's very possible that the stepdad or someone else who had beef with Angel that we just don't know about was the one who chased down Angel and lost him. Maybe Angel went and rode around his bike that day and whoever this person was found him again. Maybe Angel was even riding around all day. Maybe his phone died and he never got back to anyone. And when he did go home, the guys found him by himself in front of his own home. Maybe they found him, someone threatened to break his bike that he stole, and that's when Laura and O'Mara heard him say, "Go ahead, break it." Maybe this person got angry that he just yelled so loudly that he grabbed Angel and the bike and just drove away. If there was multiple men involved, it does make sense that they would have been able to pull this off that fast with how, they heard it and then ran out into the front porch. Maybe they even went and dumped him in the river. I think that this is very possible, and I almost think that whether he fell or was thrown in, it's very possible that he is in that river with his bike and all of his other personal belongings. If whoever did this to Angel knew that that was a very murky and deep river, that they very well could have just thrown him into that river. Because again, I think that people around the area probably all know generally that this river is exactly how they describe it, as, deep and murky. Angel's father even warned him not to go near the river, so it makes sense that, locals would know. So if they knew how impossible this river would be to be searched, then why not just throw him in there, because they knew that he'd never be found again. Either way, I think that there are way too many coincidences in this case to say that it was just a pure accident. I don't know if I 100% believe that, the person that the women heard was Angel that night, or if it was just someone who sounded a lot like him, or maybe they were already just kind of worried, had, mother's or girlfriend's intuition, and were just already worried about him, so they thought that they heard him. But if it wasn't, it's possible that whoever did this to Angel, possibly the people driving the Jeep Cherokee, saw Angel by the water, and that's when he was pushed in. I personally think that, again, whoever was driving this Jeep Cherokee found Angel during the day when he was known to have been riding around. I think that's more likely than them finding him in front of his house late at night, and then I think that they pushed him in. I don't know if they'd actually been able to, take a whole person and a bike into their SUV that quickly. In my opinion, I do think that foul play is involved. And I also think that the person who Laura and O'Mara heard that night wasn't actually Angel. I do think that someone pushed him into that river, and that to me is the only thing that makes sense. So those are really the main theories in this case. There are other smaller theories, such as maybe a hit and run on the highway bridge that resulted in someone just throwing him over, but I don't think that's very likely given the time of day and the fact that there were probably other people driving who would have seen something, and there probably would have been some sort of evidence on the road of him being hit. So obviously I do not think that that's very likely, but I did see it online, so I just wanted to address it. But other than that, I don't really know what to think. This case is really just so frustrating and has definitely moved up to one of the most frustrating cases that I've covered that I would like to see solved. Obviously, I want to see every case that I cover solved, but with this one in particular, it just blows my mind that there was zero evidence left behind. Nothing. He was literally just riding his bike during broad daylight on his bright red dirt bike, and no one saw absolutely anything. And there are all these just strange coincidences that happen, like them being chased after stealing this dirt bike, and Laura and O'Mara hearing someone saying, "Go ahead, break it," the night that he was last seen. It's crazy. There was just absolutely no trace left behind, and it just makes absolutely no sense. I just hope that someday soon he can be brought home. I feel so bad for his family because to this day, they are still mourning the loss of their loved one. They just want answers. They just want to know what happened. One thing that broke my heart into a million pieces is when Laura just said that she pretty much just spends most of her time alone now. She just goes into her room all day on Angel's birthday, and all of her family dinners are by herself. It's just so sad, and I can't even imagine what the whole family is going through. Even 8 years later, they say that the wound still feels fresh. They just have to live their lives every single day without knowing what happened to their beloved son, brother, boyfriend, or uncle. It's absolutely heartbreaking. Angel Garcia was 19 years old when he went missing on October 21st, 2011 from Hartford, Connecticut. He was described as being 5'8", 180 pounds, Hispanic male with medium to long brown hair that was usually pulled back with braids. He was last seen wearing a gray hoodie, blue jeans, and black sneakers with red designs, and his bike was a red Honda 85cc dirt bike with a large gecko logo on the side. If you have any information regarding Angel's disappearance, please contact the Hartford Police at 860-757-4236 or at 860-757-4242. So that is all I have for today's video, and now I want to know what you guys think. Do you think that he unfortunately just fell off the bridge into that river, or do you think that foul play was involved? Please let me know in the comments below. But either way, if you like this video, please make sure to leave this video a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. I put out new true crime and mystery videos every single week. Don't forget to follow my Twitter and Instagram. Both will be linked down below. If you have absolutely any case suggestions, please make sure to send them to my email at RachelShannonCases@gmail.com. Every single case that I cover is directly from that email or from my Patreons, so do not hesitate to send those cases over. With that, I hope you all have a great week, and I hope to see you next time. Bye!